Hello, my name is Ennis S.
I'm Hannah Dorval.
And I'm Rodriguez.
And Isabella D was not able to be here today. Today we'll be talking about to what extent does governmental control affect soccer globally? To start off with, governments play a big role in their state. They pass laws, they decide what's fair and what's not fair, and these laws that they pass can be positive or negative and impact many things positively or negatively. To go over what we talk about today, we'll be talking about the history and background of soccer, different perspectives on governmental control about soccer, potential solutions, and finally, going over everything we said. This was supposed to be Isabella's slide, but she wasn't able to be here today.
Our different perspectives. Throughout this presentation, we will be covering the cultural social perspective, the economic perspective, the ethical perspective, and the psychological perspective. Beginning with the cultural social perspective. Government intervention in media play a big role in soccer's impact. For example, soccer coverage is ubiquitous in Brazilian media. It dominates TV, radio, newspapers, and search engines. Additionally, soccer is often portrayed as a way for poor kids to achieve fame and fortune. The media reinforces and amplifies this connection, and the national team's success and star players become symbols of the nation. The data analysis displayed on the slide has been taken from a journal titled The Socioeconomic Determinants of International Soccer Performance. It shows the prevalence of certain countries in the top rankings of the World Cup. This goes to show how culture can play a big role in the country's participation in a certain sport, and furthermore, the government's involvement in international soccer relations. Soccer is integral to Brazilian identity. Stadiums create jobs, politicians recognize soccer's importance, and their vibrant soccer culture provides global prestige. Soccer offers a window into Brazil's passion, creativity, and innovation. To understand Brazil, one must understand soccer's critical role in their society.
Now going over the economic consequences. So we're going to be going over the economic consequences in Brazil. In Brazil, there are three main ministries that affect soccer. They're the ministries of sport, tourism, and finance. Brazil was the home to the FIFA World Cup in 2014 and the Rio Olympics in 2016. Both of these games brought massive revenue for the Brazilian country. However, these jobs that were created by the FIFA World Cup and Rio Olympics were only needed for a short period of time. Even though the country was able to get a ton of revenue from both of these competitions, the money that was received didn't go to the lower socioeconomic class. Here's a quote from Sarah with the interview with the Broken Project. The Broken Project wrote, she says that there's a sense of dealing with problems again, that there was political disruption, hunger, and unemployment. This reaffirms the idea that the money received from the FIFA World Cup and the Rio Olympics didn't make it down to the lower socioeconomic consequences, and people were back to square one after the Rio Olympics and FIFA World Cup ended. Here are two infographics. If you look on the right, there's a map of the World Cup 2014 revenues created by Marwan in 2014. You can see that the stadiums that many of the competitions of the FIFA World Cup was held in occurred across Brazil. However, even though it was across Brazil, many money that was still created and earned from the FIFA World Cup didn't make it to lower socioeconomic classes. If you look on the right, there's a graph showing the revenue of the leading soccer clubs in Brazil over the years. The graph is recorded in Brazil, billion Brazilian reals, and to have a sense of idea, 1 Brazilian real is equivalent to about 200 million USD. This shows that even though many of the Brazilian soccer clubs make so much money and the governments take some money from them, the money that is still earned overall doesn't make it to lower socioeconomic classes.
Moving on to the ethical perspective. In the ethical analysis, a comparison of two Islamic nations is represented through ethical norms in order to illustrate the ethical thesis. The women's soccer team in Morocco is backed by the unity of players from various origins and is nationally ranked. Respect for these rules has resulted in a growing sense of pride in Moroccan culture. Nonetheless, gender discrimination in sports is known to exist in Saudi Arabia. Since women are perceived as the less dominating group, they are more commonly renowned for providing care than for being athletes. This demonstrates a flagrant disregard for ethical standards. This relates to the governmental side since Islamic law is rigorously upheld both physically and culturally. The government regulates women's employment demands. A survey revealed the opinions of society about women's participation in sports from an ethical standpoint. As a result, women were treated decently and the morals of the particular group was respected. Even so, the study concludes that a smaller percentage of respondents hold divergent opinions. The survey demonstrating from a social perspective as opposed to a political one. The researcher Dahmen conducted this survey in 2020. And this is Isabella's psychological lens. Potential resolutions. A potential resolution are non-governmental organizations known as NGOs, which may be able to address the political issues of soccer in many different countries. These organizations are more focused on providing assistance to a state or group in need. The World Organization for Women is one example of an organization like this, supporting women in health and life crises. The Bank Information Center is an additional NGO that is entirely supported by contributions from individuals and foundations in the community.
But many solutions, there always comes pros and cons, especially with NGOs. So there are many pros of the NGOs as they provide stability. They like to take free, innovative approaches and take risks, and they help out in many ways. Along with many of the pros, there comes many cons. They're hard to find. They only do a limited amount. These many typically help smaller communities compared to big communities, such as states. And finally, it's hard to silence a poll. Another potential solution is increasing communications in governments. Many issues that were presented in the PowerPoint today comes from a lack of communication. If communication is implemented, this can help strengthen governments and they'll be able to be on the same page and make fair laws and help government, civilians, and much more people throughout the whole entire state.
Summary. In conclusion, soccer has had a tremendous influence on cultures and societies around the globe. With influence comes many perspectives. Economically, soccer could disadvantage lower classes. Socially, soccer creates a commonality among social classes. Ethically, soccer makes room for gender disparity and discrimination, while psychologically, soccer impacts self-image and relationships. Ultimately, it is upon the government's discretion on how soccer is played in their state. This depends on their view on the various factors that go into soccer's impact.
And these are sources cited in A through Z format.
This is a question for Melvin. If you had another team member, what perspectives or limitations could they have researched that would have made a useful contribution to the project?
Thank you for the question. If the team were to have another team member, it would be beneficial to deeply research a political lens and the limitations faced from governments such as funding and enhancements of ideas. For instance, the physical troubles that Islamic countries suffer due to inequity and the current political unrest in Brazil might have arisen from the arrival of this new member. The addition of this team member may have improved the educational aspect of the organizations established by the community and the donations and finances provided for these kinds of initiatives. Now, this is a question for Ennis. What is the way in which your team's resolution makes you think differently about your own individual research?
Thank you for the question, Melvin. One way that our team's resolution impacted my individual research was that there are many factors that impact the economics. And for example, media can fluctuate the economy, especially when it comes to time for the FIFA World Cup. There are many advertisements for this competition, which can help fluctuate how much money the hosting country makes that year. is questions for Hannah. Hannah, reflecting on your colleagues' work, which one had the greatest impact on your overall understanding on the problem your group identified?
Thank you for the question. In retrospect, I think Melvin's ethical perspective allowed for a greater understanding of soccer's impact around the world. By exploring the ethics of soccer, Melvin touched base on the treatment of women within the soccer industry, making note of a difference in pay and social status. This opens up a bigger issue of gender inequality throughout our institutions. Thank you for listening.